The little boy just wanted to eat the yogurt his dad hadn't finished, but he never expected his father to snatch it away and sternly warn him not to touch anything he'd already eaten from. The boy was shaken. He couldn't understand why his dad seemed like a different person or why he kept dragging him around to meet strangers every day. What he didn't know was that John had recently been diagnosed with cancer. He had only 3 months left to live and his son had just turned 3. What made it even more heartbreaking was that John was just an ordinary janitor and his meager paycheck couldn't come close to covering the sky-high cost of treatment. So he hid the whole truth from his son and simply kept up the pretense that everything was normal. Every day, John washed his son's hair, read to him, and played with him. Only after the boy fell asleep would he sneak off to a corner to take his medication. Wanting to make sure someone would look after his son once he was gone, John made up his mind to find him an adoptive family. The next day, he went to an adoption agency where the staff assumed he was a wildly irresponsible father. But John didn't get angry. He just said helplessly, "I only want to find my son a stable home before I die." The following day, a wealthy family reached out to John and he liked them right away. If his son grew up in a family like that, he'd surely be well cared for and thrive. But after talking with them, John learned they already had another child. He could imagine his son facing discrimination, and that was something he refused to let happen. So on the drive home, he carefully asked his son whether he'd want to live with a wealthy family. Without a moment's hesitation, the boy said no, because in his heart, no one could ever take his dad's place. That answer left John even more discouraged. Back home, he kept acting as if nothing were wrong. Spending time with his son as usual, taking him to the park, buying him ice cream, doing everything he could to grant the boys every small wish. But every time he saw other parents watching their kids grow up, John was overcome with guilt because he had no idea how to tell his son he was about to die. One day at work, a sharp pain shot through John's chest, and he knew he didn't have much time left. Fortunately, he'd finally found the right family, a single mother. They weren't wealthy, but her eyes were full of warmth and affection for his son. Back home, John gave his son one last bath, then brought out a new pair of pajamas for him to wear. But the boy, normally so well behaved, suddenly threw a tantrum. No matter how his father tried to reason with him, he refused to put the pajamas on. It was as if the boy sensed something. Sensed that once he put on that outfit, his dad would leave. Sensed that this was his father's final gift. Furious, he threw the gifts across the room, not even sparing his favorite toy. Watching this, John smiled, comforted because his son was learning in that moment how to face loss. Before long, father and son made up. The night before his son was to join his new family, John prepared a time capsule for him. He wrote 15 letters, one for each of his son's future birthdays. Inside were photos of the two of them together, along with a birthday candle that he had deliberately lit before placing it in the box. It was a trace of his own existence. It was a dying father's final gift of love, and he hoped that when his son looked back on it someday, he wouldn't feel sorrow or grief, but warmth and hope. The next day, he had his son ring the doorbell of his new home himself. His new mother greeted him, but his son did not answer. He simply gazed with reluctance at his father, whose face was worn and haggard. His father's eyes were filled with hope and blessings for him.